Some names in criminal history are hard to forget: Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy. But there's one name that should be just as well known, if not more horrifying: Luis Alfredo Garavito. Known as La Bestia, or the Beast, Garavito is believed to be the most prolific serial killer in modern history. Convicted of 138 murders but having confessed to over 190, his victims were mostly young boys, and his crimes left a nation shattered. Today we tell the story that still haunts Colombia and the world. Luis Garavito was born in 1957 in a poverty-stricken area of Colombia. He grew up in a household filled with abuse, alcoholism, and violence. He later said his father beat him regularly and showed him no love. As a child, Garavito was also sexually abused by a neighbor, something he claimed planted the seeds of rage and confusion that grew with him. Despite these early traumas, nothing could justify what he would go on to do. In the 1990s, Colombia was a country facing many challenges: civil unrest, poverty, and a broken justice system. In this chaos, Garavito found the perfect hunting ground. He disguised himself in various ways: as a priest, as a street vendor, as a charity worker, even as a disabled man. His goal was always the same: to earn the trust of young, vulnerable boys, usually between 6 and 16 years old, and lure them away. Garavito targeted boys who were homeless, poor, or simply unattended. Once he gained their trust, he'd walk them to remote areas, fields, abandoned buildings, or quiet forest paths. There, his horrific crimes unfolded. Garavito would tie them up, torture them, and eventually kill them, often with extreme brutality. Many of the boys were sexually assaulted. Some had their throats cut. Others were stabbed. The level of sadism was almost too much for investigators to process. For years, the disappearances were seen as isolated incidents. Police departments in different regions weren't sharing information. Colombia had no centralized database for missing children. But eventually, the pattern became undeniable. The method of killing was eerily consistent. Bodies were often found in similar conditions, buried in shallow graves with discarded pornographic materials or liquor bottles nearby. By 1997, the government launched a national task force. Luis Garavito's downfall came in 1999, when a witness spotted a man attempting to lure a young boy in a familiar fashion. Police captured him a few days later on unrelated charges, but soon began to suspect they had something far more dangerous in custody. When questioned, Garavito confessed. Not only did he admit to the crimes, he led police to grave sites, described his methods in detail, and even kept notebooks listing each victim, complete with names, ages, and dates. At one point, Garavito wept during his confession. He claimed he wanted to stop but couldn't control the urge. His apology meant nothing to the families left devastated. Garavito was convicted of 138 murders, but confessed to killing over 190. Some investigators believe the real number could be over 300. But here's where the outrage begins. Despite the scope of his crimes, Garavito was sentenced to just 1,853 years in prison. Sounds long, right? Not in Colombia. In Colombia, the maximum prison sentence at the time was 40 years. Due to Garavito's cooperation with authorities and his good behavior, his sentence was further reduced to just 22 years. Yes, you heard that right. The man who killed over 100 children could have walked free after just 2 decades. Public outrage exploded. There were protests, petitions, and calls for reform. Eventually, new laws were passed to extend sentencing in extreme cases like his. Garavito remained in prison as of recent updates. In 2023, news broke that he had died in prison from natural causes at the age of 66. He had been diagnosed with cancer. There was no grand funeral, no public goodbye, only a cold end for a cold man. Luis Garavito's crimes forced Colombia to confront deep cracks in its system. In the years that followed, child protection laws were strengthened, national missing person registries were improved, sentencing laws were changed for future offenders. But for many, it was too little, too late. Luis Garavito will go down in history as one of the most brutal serial killers the world has ever known. But beyond the statistics and headlines are the children. the lives taken too soon and the families forever broken. Remembering this case isn't about glorifying the killer. It is about honoring the victims and staying alert to the systems that allowed it to happen for so long. If this case shocked you, share it, so these victims aren't forgotten. What should be done when someone this evil is captured? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more real crime stories, raw, researched, and respectful to the victims.